We are going to be going over a really fun, skillful psyche activity. It has to do with the bucket list. And we've all heard about a bucket list, and we probably made one as well. But let's actually do this in a conscious manner that's going to allow us to figure out what we value in life. So there's this concept, it's called peak end theory. And what this concept says is that at the end of an experience or the end of your life, you're not going to remember everything equally. You're going to remember it in terms of what the peaks were. So if you were imagine this was your life, there were some good times, you're 13 years old, maybe high school was bad, maybe this is the time that you won a race, and then probably it goes on like that. What you're going to remember at the end of your life is these things. This could be, 5 years of not doing much, and then you did something amazing. So when you're looking back on your life, you're going to remember the peaks. And so what that says to me is that if my role is to optimize the human experience, how can we optimize for supporting people to hit more peaks? And one of those ways is to have intention. And anytime that we bring up intention, I like the phrase high intention, low attachment. In fact, I think I made that up, but it's been repeated so many times by people that liked it and quoted to me. I'm actually not sure where it came from. I use it a lot in my business because we work with people and we like to have high intention with these people and low attachment to what they actually are going to produce. So a bucket list is a good way to increase the peaks. And so I've got some fun exercises regarding the bucket list. I was actually just going around through my programs, and I have a program called Skillful Psyche. And I look at the psyche much like you would look at an athlete in a gym. I used to draw this thing in my gyms. It would be time on the bottom. I don't know if I've ever wrote like this. This is actually might be better handwriting than my actual thing. And then over here would be intensity. Wow, I don't know if that N is right. In 10, we'll make it the same way. 10. I'm actually really curious if that's spelled correctly. Wow. So we have time and intensity. And what I used to try to do is I would use broad times and modal domains to increase the intensity across all of that. So what that meant that as an athlete, 5 minutes, actually we can go 10 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes, 1 hour, 3 hours. I would want my athletes to be performing as high as possible across all of these intensities, but it wouldn't really look like that. It would look like this because you can't really perform at as high as intensity at 10 seconds as you can at 3 hours. So anyways, we would use a bunch of different time domains to train at and a bunch of different types of exercise to make sure that the athlete was as well-rounded as possible. And as somebody who, I have a degree in psychology and I really like the non-physical aspect of life, I enjoy it more than anything. I look at the psyche as the same way. How can we harness broad aspects of ourselves to give ourselves the best life experience? And so some of that is resolving trauma, right? Because even if our life is great and grand, like many celebrities who have a lot of power, have a lot of fame, have a lot of money, if there's still traumas that haunt you, the good stuff isn't really going to land in a sponge that's able to take in anything because they're so oversaturated with things that are bogging them down and making them feel a certain way. So it's a combination of resolving traumas from our past, making sure that our current life situation, our present moment is up to alignment with the greatest version of self, us knowing what the greatest version of self is, us making sure that we're in direction, going to the greater versions of self, and then also making sure that we're designing our life where we can have peaks. That's what we're looking for. And just like being consciously aware of anything, a bucket list allows us to know which peaks are important for us to invest energy to climb the mountain on. Now, on these skillful psyche practices that I did, I thought it was very important to make sure that people were in theta brainwave state. And I'm not going to do it right now because it would just be too much silence. And you could do the actual real practice. I'm sure there's a link on my website where you can find a free week trial where you can test out the skillful psyche practices. But this breathwork exercise, I'll tell you guys what it is. It's actually really cool because you listen to your heartbeats, which I think last week or the week before I did something where we listened to our heartbeats as well, but we used that as a timer for our breath. But this one, you actually sit in this position with your elbows here, your hands are out in a receiving position, and you would take an inhale to fill up your lungs, take a little bit more of an inhale, and then we're holding our breath for 15 to 30 seconds. During that hold, we're listening to our heartbeat, and we're listening to our heart say silently, thou. So thou obviously means self. And we're not actually doing this practice, so I'll just tell you a little bit more about this breath work. So then you would release the breath, and then you would repeat. Inhale a little bit more to stretch out, and then you're stretching with your consciousness, you're bringing focus into your heartbeat, and then you're hearing your heartbeat say the word or the sound, thou, which essentially is one step deeper than I am. It's almost like the I am without the am. It's just self. It's just thou. It's just you, it's just you, me, I. And that's what the heart would know. The heart wouldn't know a verb, an action such as am. It would just know the totality of yourself. And so I really like the breath work where just the kriyas in general, where you search, because it gets rid of the distraction, which is the whole point of kriyas. At least for me, once upon a time, it's no issue now, but I had trouble just sitting with crossed leg and closing my eyes and focusing on breath. That was a little bit difficult for me. And so if there was something for me to do, it would get me out of the laundry list of items and into the practice. And then before I know it, I'm present. I'm conscious. I am thou. Anyway, so that was the breath work that I used to get people down into theta. I'm just going to get some. So also, the good thing about this is we're going to start with our bucket list. So if you guys write in the comments, that'll work. But even just tuning into this, because if you made this, or maybe you've never made a bucket list, what are some of the things that you wish or desire to experience before you leave this plane of existence? And death is usually looked at as a bad thing, right? It serves the media, it serves the entertainment industry to play on our body's ego and desire to stay alive, because our body's here, the body is manifested, but we are inhabiting the body. And so while we are here in a creator capacity, what are we going to create? What experiences do we get to create for ourselves? Choosing that by writing down a list or dropping it in the comments so I can read it out for everybody so that there's more of us listening and vibrating to this will make your desires more conscious. We get to the end of the comments here. And so there's a lot of talk about present moment awareness, which is definitely a perspective that one should take and can take and is available to take. But then there's also connection to desired realities. And so what are some of the experience that you desire to do before you leave? The bucket list isn't about the bucket list. The bucket list is about these questions that I'm going to ask after, because those questions are what makes the bucket list meaningful. And so if you write down what you feel is, like, let's just say 10 items, but we don't have to limit, but at least 10. At least 10 items, which can be an experience, a relationship, thing, a place, an achievement. And the cool thing about this is that you get to learn about yourself. You get to learn, maybe just the list will teach you. Now the next question, as you look at this list that you made, the next question that you ask yourself, and maybe even journal, is why is each item meaningful to you? And that's each item. Many of us are stuck in want, and want comes from a Norse word, vant, which means lack. And so a lot of us know our wants. We want this, we want that, we want this person, we want this job, we want to be able to do this thing, we want this car, we want this house, we want this lifestyle, we want these shoes. We want our kids to have this life experience. We want our parents to not work anymore. We want our partner to be happier. We have all of these wants. And then that's the end. We have this recognition of want, of lack. We have this recognition of lack. And then we carry that, we color the rest of our life in with that. And I use the word we a lot because we're all in this together. I don't really have a perspective that there's you. Because I could simply be talking to you of you are this, you are that. No, we are all. And so if there's some of us that, if I'm recognizing out in the world that there's behavior pattern, that's a pattern that's within self. And so if we make this list and we're looking at it as lack, that's just a program that the advertisers, America is essentially ran by marketing and advertising. That's the importance here. If you go to other countries, like some parts of Asia, North Korea, China, advertising is not what rules the game there. What rules the game there is control of people. It's actually controlling the lives of people. Now, advertisers control people, for sure. But what is supreme is what serves the advertisers here. The market, the merchant class. And I'm getting on a tangent there. Now, writing down why each item is meaningful to you gets you out of lack. So if you have new car, why is that meaningful to you? You now have some context of what is important to you. Being at peace, totality of who I am, and confident to expand and love more. Someone's saying Bashar is a false light worker. Someone's questioning false light? So crazy. I put down go to Norway as my first bucket list item. Great. All right. I'm not bringing up comments, so I got to come closer. This is so awkward to watch, especially with negative comments from people. I don't see any of those, which is interesting. Vant in Norwegian means used to. I didn't say Norwegian. I said Norse. Okay, so if we go back to our list, I aspire to not need. I don't know if you can aspire to not, because not is a destructive trait, which means that in order for you to not something, then the thing that you are knotting has to exist. So it almost perpetuates the existence of which you are aspiring to destroy. And so as long as we are aspiring to destroy something, the thing is going to exist by your own creation, which is why that saying exists. What you resist persists. What you resist persists, exists because of the truth. Okay, so Melissa just rewrote that. I aspire to create value so that all is equal in cost. That's an interesting one to unpack. All right, let's move on. So we wrote down why is each one meaningful to me out of the bucket list. So you have your bucket list, there's some space after it. Why is each item meaningful to me? Now you discover like what is actually the value there. And guys, there's so much of us people that are making these untangible items. With creation, specificity is of extreme profundity. Is that right? Specificity is going to be the thing that powers the aim of the creation. And so if you are unspecific, then creation is going to go, I can't think of this thing. It's going to go the path of least resistance. Path of least resistance. So if you're just hoping for $1 million, no specific anything, you just want the money, maybe you get hit by a car and insurance gives you $1 million because you cannot use your legs anymore, which has happened to somebody that I know. Same thing if you're looking for a career change. Maybe an accident happens that forces you out of your career change. You guys have all had these things happen to us and you're like, wow, I was actually thinking of getting out of this current situation and now it happened. I was ejected out of it. That is because of a lack of specificity. I share this story all the time of a good friend. He's actually relatively well known. I would guess 50% of the people on this call knows who this person is, so I won't say his name. He came to America from Hungary with a dream to play on a particular basketball team of a college. And a few years after he landed in America, he knew he wanted to be in a certain position. Okay, so specificity was there. I want to be center, I think it was, or captain or something, certain position of this basketball team. And so he got granted that as an actor in a commercial. And there's other, because I live in LA, I lived in LA, I'm an hour outside of it now, for 18 years, so I knew a lot of actors. And I heard that story many times. Another person wanted, because it was a want, to be on, wanted everybody in America to see their face. And they were imagining an A-list movie type role, but weren't specific about it. The specificity was in every home on every TV. And so now you get a nationwide commercial for a no-name company, but is everywhere. I thought the universe doesn't read not, so you get what you don't want. That's exactly what I said. You can't not something. In order for you to not something, you actually need the thing to exist. Get it? Now, and then that's interesting words you use. Don't want. You get what you don't want. Exactly. You get what you don't want, which translates to you get what you don't lack. You don't lack it. If you don't want to get up at 5 a.m. with an alarm clock every single day and go to a job that you hate, you do not lack the reality where you hate going to your job. You don't lack it. So every time you think, say, proclaim, I don't want something, you're essentially saying, I have abundance of this. I don't want... What just came to me was, I don't want drama. No, you don't lack drama, do you? It's everywhere around you. And you just keep on proclaiming that. The devil is in the details. Specific is important. Specific is king. The person said do not use the word not, which is funny. Don't use the word not basically means do not use not. I want to skydive before I die. Great. Okay, we're putting energy towards things we're saying or not to. All right, so bucket list, we made it. Why is each item meaningful? We looked at that. Now we look at all of those items and we rate on a scale of 1 to 10. Which one is, or you rate on a scale of 1 to 10, all of them. And so so this person has the skydiving. on there, right? And that's like easiest thing to focus on. Is it meaningful compared to watch your grandchildren frolic in a field that you own as a grandparent that you're eventually going to pass on your estate to your family to support those grandkids? Just as an example. Each one of the Skillful Psyche practices, I recorded 21 of them. Each one of them changed my life. Just by me, I did each of them twice because and probably some of them 3 times, but I taught them to groups 2 times when I was recording them, and 2 different times, and I used the best recording, and it went onto my site. And so the days that I did those were life-changing. And so you guys might just be listening to this, but actually write down, and I'm going to keep on repeating that. Write down your bucket list. Look at them. Determine why they are meaningful. Someone said, I started saying, so let me just finish that thought. Determine why they're meaningful, then rate 1 to 10, scale 1 to 10 on all of those items, which ones, like, rate their meaningfulness. Someone saying, I started saying, I desire it. And it has definitely shifted the vibration, of course, because desire is from Latin, I believe, de sedere, from sedere, stars, the stars, really. From the stars is desire. So now we are recognizing, which means to know again. Cognate means to learn. Cognition, cognate. Means to repeat. Cognate, recognize. We're knowing. It has always been known by a different aspect of ourself, as a grander aspect. So a desire is a recognition, it's a re-knowing of the reality that you're going towards. I aspire to create so much specific value that my actions would optimally lead to many energy exchanges, which would bring things I need in order to flourish in this dimension. This is my bucket. This is my bucket. To me, I would challenge you saying that you're still not being specific. What are these energy exchanges that would be meaningful to you? What do they look like? How do they come? What do they allow you to do? Because we've been trained. This one is coming to me right now based on this comment, which I'll read it again, which sounds great. I aspire to create so much specific value that my actions would optimally lead to many energy exchanges, which would bring things I need in order to flourish in this dimension. It's almost like the words are being used to go away from want, which is great. So we detach from needing anything. And that's another practice. Remember I said that we can train the psyche in many different ways. So there's other practices we can do where we have non-attachment and acceptance. This one is about training our ability to grasp onto desires. And so let's step outside of the non-attachment perspective and get into grabbing onto the things that we deserve. Deserve is, and if you guys want to know etymology of things, there's ETYM online. Deserve, mid-13th century, deserve. To merit, be worthy of, for qualities or actions. Serve well, to serve, that deserves, deserved, rightfully earned, merited. Not deserving, not having merit is undeserving. Okay, so feeling that you deserve things means, it implies that you are worthy, that you have provided value. And now, what is that? What does that look like? My wife uses a saying. She says, if I got into a taxi and just told and didn't tell the taxi driver where I was going, the taxi driver wouldn't be able to do their job. The taxi driver knows all of the roads, all of the streets, the traffic, the obstacles of the day. And here you are, you sit in the seat and you do not give a specific location. Now you have this creator in the driver's seat who's willing to take you there, but you're feeling like you don't deserve it. And so now the person can't do their job in the most effective way, and you're just trusting the flow, but also you refusing to recognize your desires is in a way choosing not. It's choosing out. You're opting out. So let's look at our list, bucket list. Let's look at our list and recognize if there's any patterns. What do they revolve around? Is it revolving around locations such as travel? Is it revolving around family? Is it revolving around wealth? Is it revolving on certain aspirations, like being a certain type of person or achieving things that would make you feel proud of yourself? And that's just really good to know those patterns so that you can know yourself. And now let's look at the list, and now we get to decide. And action is great because action is us playing in the video game that we're creating. What we're doing with the bucket list is we're designing. Then the action is us inhabiting the video game character that we designed. And now we're going through the challenges of the level, and us completing the lesson allows us to graduate that lesson. And without us going through that process, we just forever want things. There's some of us that want a car. I promise you that once you buy a few of these cars that you want, cars aren't going to be what you go to bed thinking about, whether you have them in your garage or not, because you learn that lesson. It's no longer pulling on you. We always fight for what we don't have. There's that saying, right? We fight for what we don't have. So if you're fighting for status, you don't have it internally. Like it's missing. There's a void there, and it doesn't matter what anybody else sees. You could be the best in the nation at a particular thing, but there's this void. So what you recognize is that you're not best in the world. And even if you get best in the world, then you're like, you fill in, you magnify some aspect of that proves to yourself that you're lacking what you're fighting for. And so you continue to fight. Some of us don't have confidence in the way that we look. Some of you guys are going to hate me for this, but then we spend 3 hours a day in a gym, lifting up weights up and down, because walking on the beach and playing in the forest and doing things that would actually improve the health of your body and be more functional. You can build your own house. You can play with your kids. But you're searching for the bigger biceps and the bigger butt because we're fighting for what we don't have. Okay. I don't know how I got on that tangent. Look at your list. Action is how I got on that. Action. So look at your list and let's act. Out of your list, which one can you act on this week? In the next 7 days? Which one can you act on? Because now you have this list. You probably put some stuff on there that is a little bit more difficult to achieve, and some of it you can do. Some of it, like the guy that said skydiving, you could go skydiving for a few $100s. And that's one of the peaks that you're going to remember at the end of your life. And there's no reason to put off some of these things when you actually look at it from like, oh, this is something that pulls on me. This is something that would give me great joy. I only care about connection without attachment. This is a constant effort. What I deserve is to share my thoughts and beliefs. There are so many, Ra. Are you challenging me to spell out each connection? I'm challenging you to focus more on the positive aspect as opposed to the negative aspect. So as opposed to shedding things like freeing yourself up, what connections are you looking to actually attach to? Some might be allergic to the word attachment. And that's a great perspective to have. But can you also be in a perspective where you can consciously connect to some things? Communication. I'll be completely honest about something. I have 1 year clean from meth. I have 1 year clean from meth. Congrats. I use mushrooms to help me get off of it. So what fills in that? With addictions, it's the same thing. If you just detach from your addictions, you're left with a void. Everything needs to be a reprogram. So if you have something that was taking up a significant part of your life and brain force, brain power, what can you reattach that to? And it's essentially becoming addicted to something that serves you and the world at a greater capacity. So addiction, circa 1600s. Tendency, inclination, penchant, state of being, self-addicted to a habit, a pursuit, an awarding, a delivering up. Noun of action from past participle, stem of adexere, to deliver, award, devote, consecrate, sacrifice. If you took the word addiction out of it, this is all very good, noble, important sounding. State of being, that's what addiction is. State of being. Tendency, inclination, addicted, delivered over, addict, to devote or give up oneself to habit or occupation. So we all have this negative association with addiction, where I would say, according to what the actual word means etymologically, that addiction is a natural state. It is your state. And so it's something that you are addicted to. It's something that you continuously do. It's a pattern. It's a repetition. And so if you're continuously doing something destructive, it's not the word addiction that's bad. It's the destructive behavior. And so addict yourself, create a new state of being that serves you and the whole in a way that sounds or that is more aligned with your desires, your values. So Melissa's again saying, I always thought attachment to be a debility. And I'm even saying addiction is positive. Are you saying that wanting is useful simply to balance out the yin-yang sort of thing that exists in this dimension? No, wanting means lack. So the English language has very poor translation to the people that speak it. We're all speaking things, not really realizing what we're talking about, like addiction, for example. Like, let me look at attachment, like wants, like desires. And we may not realize that there's a difference between want and desire, but there's a significant difference. Attachment, arrest of a person on judicial warrant, is the first thing that comes up from Anglo-Latin. The world's application to property, including later wages. Sympathy, devotion, something that is attached to something else. Okay, that's not very useful. Attached, to take or seize. It's a legal term. Attachment doesn't sound so harmonious. Addiction does to me. And so this is where we feel that attachment's not so severe, but according to what the actual word means, attachment seems more, what's the word I'm looking for? It seems more abrasive than addiction. Addiction seems pleasant. It seems the way we are. Attachment seems abrasive. Now, want and desire is a distinction, and I'll remember that, between attachment and addiction. So then it takes a few years for me to start to incorporate this into my language. And even want is something that is really easy to use because most of us have this association to want as the same thing as desire, and it's not. Want is a recognition of lack. It's basically when you say, I want something, you're actually saying of what? You're recognizing that you don't have it. And that's, as I speak, I shall create. And desire is a recognition of the stars. It's from the stars. The stars are sending you a signal that you're recognizing. I'm going to look up Siddhire. Oh, sidereal comes up in here, which is a time that I like to talk about. Star, celestial body appearing as a luminous point. I'm going to go to desire. See if I can get to the Siddhire part of it. Consider comes from the same. Consider. I'm coinciding your Siddhire, your state of the stars, heavenly body, star constellation. All right. So desire is we're taught that it's one of the deadly sins, that it's lust. So desire even sounds better to me than want, which has like this sharp want. Desire is more flowing. It comes out of me flowing. Let's get back to the bucket list. So we made our bucket list. We listed why each item was meaningful. We went and rated scale of 1 to 10 the levels of meaningfulness so that we know out of our bucket list which one is most meaningful. We have committed to an action to help us achieve one of those items on the list. We've recognized patterns of the items on the list. Next is for us to look at the list and decide means to cut off, side, scissors. So trim the list down to one item. Which one is your favorite? Make that important. Become addicted to the actions, the emotions, the thoughts, the relationships, the habits that serve that peak state. We kind of already know which one can come first, right? Do you guys have any values that were revealed to you as a way of after doing this? What is the name of the place you're looking up words again? At etymonline.com. I desire healthy addictions. I love this so much. Desire sounds like related to attracting, where want sounds more like realizing lack in a painful way. Attracting. Let's look up attracting. Attractin. It's also a medical term for body's tendency to absorb fluids, nourishment, or for a treatment to draw out. So it's something to pull in. It's trahir means to pull, to draw. And yeah, attraction would be, so you have the desire, this message, and to me what that is it's out of infinite realities, you're getting a ping into one of these realities. So you're getting sent a desire. You're getting sent like, oh, that feels harmonious. And so it's a recognition of the harmony of self with the marriage, with the attraction, I should say, that like you basically now are opening up yourself to attract, to pull in, to become one with that reality. And to me, it feels like it's coming out of my heart. And I use that as a map, as a steering wheel of how to get to that. And there's been things that I've been totally, completely unaware of, and then ping. And it's just like, wow, there's a feeling, there's an attraction to this reality that before this moment I was unaware of. But then I'm like, oh no, actually I remember 5 years ago having an intention for it. So then usually with some work, I'm like, oh, this actually serves this other desire that I had. And I'm like, oh. And I start to see that like, it's not just this one thing, that there's been a triangulation effect throughout my past. And this is just the one that I actually recognize. And then I look at my life and I realize that action can be taken to get to that reality. And then I take that action, and this is how I attract, I open myself up and pull in the desires that are sent to me. Whereas want is looking through reality and noticing things and recognizing lack. It's affirming, I do not have that. And then that creates tension. It's almost like you're a magnet that is saying, I want that, And so you put a force like this on something that was neutral, and you're doing this. And so there's this tension that gets created where you will forever want it because you have, with your words, unknowingly pushed it away further out of your reach just because you're affirming that you don't have this thing. And this thing is going to continuously come near you, giving you opportunities to grab it, but you're so in the belief, in the knowing that you lack it, that you want it, which means lack if you're just joining, that it's bouncing off you and it's never going to be achieved. And a lot of you have the experience where you want something for a very, very long time, and then what happens? You stop wanting it. And then what happens? You guys know the story. All of a sudden, it has an opportunity to settle in to where it would have eventually come to that point, which is in your reality. So if we're pushing things away by wanting things, which is equivalent to like trying to grab things in faster than they should. And now it's, so whether you look at it like the real way, which is like outside of the word construct, if we're trying to grab something to come close to us before it wants to, before it is naturally going to, it's also going to be repulsed from that activity. And it's going to stay on the perimeter beyond your grasp until you release the pulling, and then it'll come towards you in its own natural flow. Best phrase in Brazil to a child is, children don't have wants. Yeah, neither do gods. Think about that. If you are a creator that can create, there wouldn't be any lack. And being in that point where you have that supreme trust and knowing and power to be free from lack in all moments. All right, whoever has just said apologize for being a jackass, you're not being a jackass. So that was an example of a Skillful Psyche session. If you guys want more, there's a 7-day free trial on my website. And this one was one of my favorites, and I didn't do the whole thing. So you are watching this and you want to do the whole thing, go. I think it's one of the last ones, bucket list. There's some other ones on money. Like it's the same thing with money. Guys, if you do not want money, you like if want and money, like if you're not trying to accumulate money, then it's not going to have so much power on you. And then also, if you're so focused on things that don't take money, like sitting under waterfalls, it's hard to explain. It would take another hour. So I'm not going to go into that, but there's other practices on there. Thank you guys so much for your comments. I'm just reading some last ones to see if they are relevant. And yes, November 30th as well. I'm doing a Human Garage practice warm-up. We're doing kind of similar to our live events that we're doing, but we're doing it on Zoom, November 30th. So go to humangarage.org to find out more information on how to get involved on that.